If you look at a real banana, you will see that it's made up of 2 shades of a similar colour, plus little seeds. If you then cut a slice and break it up, you'll see that it naturally breaks into 3 pieces, which all look very similar. Within each of these pieces is a shape which is a mirror image of one half of itself. It can help you, when making complex canes, to make a drawing of the shapes within the canes. This can also help you identify the colours that you're going to mix in advance. You can use the drawing to identify parts which are repeated in nature. In this case, a little wing shape with a dot within a shape that's almost a triangle. Here's that little wing shape. This is just one part of 6 which are all the same. First you'll be mixing a very translucent cream with a little ochre in it. This colour must be only very subtly different from the main colour of the banana cane. A little more translucent, in fact. I'm forming this into a rectangle with thin edges, and then this is wrapped around a cylinder of dark brown. This is going to form the spot for the banana seed. I'm forming the curved wing shape which we saw earlier. Now you need to infill these parts around the shape to form the triangle, which becomes the basic shape of the 6 equal parts of the cane. I've made a large cylinder to fill in the curve of the wing. You'll need quite a lot of material to do this part, so make sure you mix plenty. Now you need to infill the parts around this shape to form the triangle until all the gaps are filled in. You'll need to think creatively here to make sure you get the right shapes and to ensure that there are no air gaps between in the construction of the triangle. Air bubbles in a cane can cause it not to stick together properly, and consequently it can distort when you're lengthening it. So I'm making shapes which just fit in. Filling in all the gaps to make sure that we have that little triangle. Then, as usual with canes, we'll start to concentrate on lengthening it. Again, I'm concentrating on the middle of the cane first. And looking at it, I think I need to add an extra piece to the side because the material doesn't look thick enough here and the colours just need a little more separation. As I've said, just as with cylindrical shapes, you do need to concentrate on the centre of the cane first, and with a combination of pressing and pulling, working from the centre outwards, try and get the cane evenly thinned out all the way along. You can use the surface to keep the integrity of the triangle. Take your time here to try and get it really straight and really even. And always keep that triangular shape. Continue to work this cane, stretching and pulling and pressing until it's reached around 12 inches in length. That's 30 centimetres approximately. Be careful not to thin out the edges too much as you work. It needs to be a triangle, not a hollow triangle. Even banging it on the work surface sometimes can help. Just to keep those edges flat. Just helps it to stretch a little bit more evenly. That's about long enough. Cut the cane in half and then put the two sections together. You should start to see that double wing shape appear when you do this. We need to be especially careful to make sure there's no air gap between these two sections as you're doing this. Then cut the scrappy ends off until you see a regular sized spot in each half. A little bit more. Then we need to cut this cane into 3. 3 pieces of an even size. If you're worried, use a measuring tape to make sure that the sizes are even. I'm kind of used to using this now, so I can guess. You're forming an almost cylindrical shape, albeit slightly triangular at this stage. Again, the air gaps really need to be squashed out of the shape as you work it. Try and expel the air as you push it together. When you're really happy, you can start to work on it. Because it's made of triangles, it does look a little triangular at this stage. However, if you have stuck it together properly, it will be quite easy to push it back into a cylindrical shape as you lengthen it. Again, by working your fingers all the way round from the centre outwards. Making sure that the parts stick together and then they'll stretch together. Working your way outwards from the centre to form a nice regular cylinder. Don't be tempted to roll it at this stage. Otherwise it won't stick together and the parts can shear away and distort if you start to roll it too early. When you're ready, when you know it's stuck, you can then roll it so that it's a smoother cylinder. Don't worry about the middles getting a little bit distorted at the ends, that's quite normal. You'll be cutting these off. I'm just checking the ends. I'm looking at the proportions. But the proportions are more obvious as they appear in the centre. Looking at this, I'm thinking that it needs an extra piece to add to the outside, so that the proportions are more regular, so that the spots appear smaller in the cane. If you're adding some extra to the cane, you need to roll out some material evenly. If you don't put an even thickness all the way around, your spots will appear not quite to be in the centre. Again, it's important that you make sure that there's no air underneath this layer and that it fits together evenly without any overlaps. Overlaps can again make it appear that the spots aren't in the centre. So join it together as well as you can. Then you can roll it down to the stage that you want. Now it's time to decide what scale you're working in. You can work in several scales at the same time if you just cut this into pieces of the size that you want. So you could cut it in half and keep half for 6th scale, for play scale. You could use half of it for 12th scale, or whatever size you wish. And at this stage you can simply cook some of your cane for later slicing to make tarts and banana custard, etc. Always oven harden this according to the manufacturer's instructions. If you're making bananas for peeled bananas, you cut into 1 centimetre lengths after you've rounded off the ends. You just need one end rounded off so that it looks as if it started to be eaten. To make a half-eaten banana, take the skin which we showed previously with the cream side upwards. Pop the banana piece in the middle and wrap round the centre carefully. Bring the edges of the sides to the halfway point and stick it slightly upwards around the centre banana. Bring each piece upwards and then curl back as if it's being held in a doll's hand. Obviously, if you're laying it on a plate or on a work surface, you'll need to arrange these pieces differently. nip off any pointed ends. And then you cook it at this stage for later painting. You can take as much time as you like arranging these peels.